Thank you, Madam Chair. There's no question this technology of facial recognition is extremely important and viable for our government. I think most notably places like Border Patrol and law enforcement. At the same time, there's also no question that this technology allows for any individual to be identified in public spaces, be it through the private sector or government entities, and therein lies a potential problem and grave concern for many people. Both, whether we're dealing in private sector or government, should bear the responsibility of individual privacy and data security. And so I'm not sure exactly where this question is best directed, be it Mr. Parker, Mr. Castro, Ms. Leong, I'm not sure. So any of you jump in here. Are there, let's start with the private sector, companies that are using facial recognition technology that are addressing this issue of civil liberty or the whole question of privacy? In other words, are there any within the private sector who are setting forth best practices? Any of the stakeholders?
I can start with that. Yes, we have identified a number of companies that have put out principles around privacy. Specifically, I can name some: Rank One, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. They've all have public statements where they identify what specifically they're doing around facial recognition, how they want to protect privacy, how they're doing it in terms of development of the technology, what they're doing with a developer agreement, so that anyone's using their technology, what they have to agree to use their technology.
Like, what are some of those principles?
Yeah, so
what are the guidelines?
It has things around transparency, consent, data protection, notification. They go through a whole set of issues, and these match the type of consensus-based guidelines that we've seen come out of other forums as well.
All right, so we have a big concern, you just brought it up, that people are being identified without their consent. So what are the safeguards? I mean, it's one thing to have policies, to have things written down. It's another thing to implement these things to protect the public, protect individuals who have not consented to this type of technology. So how will these facial recognition products, as they develop, inform individuals that they're being exposed potentially without their knowledge?
So a number of the recommendations are around how you actually communicate to individuals under what circumstances. And part of the source of confusion, I think, in some areas is that there's many different types of systems that are out there. So some are just doing facial analysis. For example, in the digital signage industry, if you walk by an advertising sign.
Without consent.
Without consent, what they're doing is they're just tracking the general demographics of who has seen the ad. They're not tracking anyone's identity. And so they've said for that type of purpose, they're not going to be obtaining consent. But they have said if they're going to be targeting people ads, so for example, if they're targeting you based on your identity, they will require consent. So you have to have signed up, for example, for an
All right, so let's
program.
go to the Atlanta airport, which right now is a pilot airport for some facial recognition technology. All right, you have the busiest airport in the world. You have thousands of people walking around all over the place. When this technology is implemented, there's no way to get consent from everyone walking around.
So for the Atlanta airport specifically, they have the ability to opt out. So you don't have to go through that if you're going through the terminal, the international terminal.
All right, so how does a person opt out?
You simply say that you don't want to use the self-serve kiosk, and you can go to an agent and show them your passport.
So you're saying that technology in airports would be used just in security lines?
No, it's used for boarding and for screening and for bag check. It's used for a variety of purposes. In each of those areas, Delta has said that they have an ability to opt out, and they allow consumers to do that.
Okay. Do you know of any case where the government in particular using this type of technology without the knowledge, without consent of an individual, where it actually violated the Fourth Amendment?
I don't know that. I don't think we have good documentation of that. I do think that's why we need a search warrant requirement so we know whenever those requests are made.
Yeah, I would agree. And therein lies the great potential problem with all this. I mean, we see the value of the technology, but somehow we've got to land the plane on a safe zone that does not violate people's rights, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Madam Chair.